Nancy Garrido is the mystery woman in the Jaycee Dugard kidnapping case. We know she is the suspect's wife, but how did she fall for this guy? How involved was she in his alleged crimes?
55-year-old Nancy Garrido has been called plain and modest, as well as a robot who was under the control of her husband, Philip. But she's also been called a monster for her alleged role in the kidnapping of 11-year-old Jaycee Lee Dugard.
He told the London Telegraph that his wife, Nancy, is the real monster. Explain that.
I said she was equally as responsible.
What was she like?
This. She was just, she didn't talk very much. She was, you know, a little standoffish. She didn't say very much. I just say that they owe equal responsibility to the both of them. They don't never need to see the light of day, in my opinion. But let's help these girls on a recovery.
Joining me right now from Los Angeles, clinical psychologist Michelle Golan. She's dealt with domestic abuse cases. Also, CNN legal analyst Lisa Bloom joining us as well tonight. Hey, guys, thanks for being here. Michelle, let me start with you. People have been asking, all of us have been asking, how could anyone, let alone a man's wife, go along with something this horrible for so long? I mean, give us some insight into this thinking.
You know, Campbell, I think what is really happening is our understanding and awareness of female sexual predators and sexual offenders is what is coming to light. I mean, she is a sexual offender and sexual predator. That is why she's being charged in the same manner as Philip. I mean, to me, it is simply a couple. There are three types of female sexual predators that have been studied. That's the teacher-lover category. That's like the Deborah LaFave. There's the predisposed. That's the Melissa Huckabees. And then we have Nancy, and she is the male coerced or coupling of offenders that go on. And women sexually abuse and can be as sociopathic as men, and we need to really be aware of that.
And Lisa, you know, Nancy wasn't just covering up for her husband here. I mean, to that point, she's being charged with the same crimes, including rape, false imprisonment by violence. Police also believe she was the initial abductor. Are you surprised by the alleged extent of her involvement?
I am. We know from a 2007 Justice Department study that of adults arrested for rape, only 1% are female. We do hear about them in the news, the teacher cases, the Melissa Huckabees, and now this, but it does remain unusual. And Campbell, you're right. She's accused, just like her husband, of rape, not as a co-conspirator, not as an accessory after the fact, but as a rapist herself. So we have to keep very clear-eyed about what she's accused of. She's accused of perpetrating a sexual assault herself on these girls.
Nancy, you know, she met, or rather, I'm sorry, Michelle, Nancy met Philip Garrido in prison. This was at Leavenworth. I mean, he was serving 25 years for rape when she met him. She falls for him, marries him. I mean, what draws those people together?
The personality, the personality type of a woman who gets into the male coerced sex offender perpetrator category is a woman who is dependent, has low self-esteem, probably depression, has difficulty in relationships, obviously. Marrying someone in prison constitutes that. And again, there's also studies that in 2007, the Sexual Offenders Management found that nearly 4,000 women were in sex offender treatment, and nearly 3,000 juvenile females were in sex offender treatment. So I think we have to understand that they're, you know, in the scheme of what sexual offenders do, I guess, like what Lisa was saying, it's a low percentage, but there's also an underreporting that goes on about female sexual perpetrators that we have to be aware of, that we may actually, with all these news reports and things happening, we may be getting higher reports of it.
And Lisa, you know, at one point, a couple of years after Jaycee is being kept prisoner, he goes back to jail for 4 months. Nancy, then, the wife, is left with Jaycee. I mean, that has got to be some pretty compelling evidence in a trial, right?
Absolutely. She was the only captor at that point as these three girls are being held captive. And, you know, we can talk about her low self-esteem and the fact that she's passive and she's male coerced and all of these terms, and I'm sure that they're correct. But let's be clear that legally, probably none of that is going to matter. It certainly doesn't rise to the level of an insanity defense, which would be that she's not capable of controlling her actions. In fact, she was part of this household that constructed this elaborate labyrinth in the backyard. These people knew very clearly what they were doing.
Right.
They were hiding it from authorities. They were clearly of sound mind. And so I don't think any kind of diminished capacity or insanity defense is going to help them as a defense at trial.
And Michelle, even though let me just go to this point. She was allegedly committing these crimes, but in a way you think she also played kind of a sort of mother role to these daughters as well, right? To Jaycee's daughters.
Well, I think that's exactly what she did. She did play the mother role, and actually it's exactly what I had predicted, which is that she, you know, I think part of it, abducting Jaycee and having her bear her children, is the fact that she either didn't want to have children, bear them, or that she couldn't. She was 35 by the time that she met him. So she used Jaycee basically to get children from her. And then I really think what really was happening was the family, nuclear family, if you will, was Jaycee, Philip, and the two girls living in the house, and Nancy living in the house, and Jaycee living in as sort of like the slave caretaker.
Right. Well, I should mention, though, we don't know anything about her ability to have children, though. But final question, I guess, Lisa.
Right.
Does having a wife add a veneer of respectability to a sex offender? I mean, are neighbors, officials less likely to be suspicious, and therefore it makes for, you know, horribly a good cover?
It sure does, Campbell. In fact, neighbors have said that we thought he was a creepy guy. He seemed strange to us, but he had this wife, and so we overlooked a lot. Other neighbors have said because of Megan's Law, they knew he was a sex offender. They called the police, and the police never checked the backyard, tragically. But this is certainly a wake-up call to all of us to call the police if there's any question about children in our neighborhood being abused. And don't let the fact that there may be a woman in the household cover up what could be going on to the detriment of kids.
Absolutely. Lisa, Michelle,
Absolutely
thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Campbell.